Happy Old Days is a story of Jin, and she's a woman who returned to Thailand after a stint in a European country, and she wanted to establish her office in her home where she grew up in. It was strategically located, and she's an interior designer, so she said that this is an ideal place. So it used to be a music school. Her father used to teach piano. And so the first floor she wanted to convert into her office, and then the second floor is where the living space was going to be. But there was so much clutter. That's where she grew up, they lived there forever. And so she had to throw a lot of things away. And at first I didn't want to actually watch the movie because it's really an overused plot where you have to go back to your past and then you relive the pains of the past and stuff like that. So I didn't want to watch it in the beginning, but I did because the lead star is actually the same lead star in this Thailand movie, which the title skips my mind, but it's about cheating in school. And so she's a very good actress, so I decided, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to watch it. And thank God I did, because it brought forward three very important questions that I think we all need to answer. One is apologies. When we're asking for an apology, is it really because we want to be forgiven, or is it because we wanted to be relieved of the guilt of what we have done? Second is forgiveness. Do we actually need forgiveness? Once we have asked for forgiveness, do we actually need to receive it from the person that's supposed to forgive us, or is it really a task that is actually the burden of the person who's going to give you forgiveness? And third is moving on. When we move on from a painful memory or from a painful event, is it because we have really fully accepted that event or that thing that happened to us, or is it because we managed to redesign how the memory looks like and how it happened in a form that it will allow us to move on? So Jin decided, she was watching Marie Kondo, and she wanted to make everything modern and clean. So she was watching Marie Kondo, and one of the things that Marie Kondo said is something for the way to declutter is to actually look at an object and ask if that brings you joy. If it doesn't, you thank that object and then you move on. Second is that she said, this was actually not in the movie, but I'm an avid watcher. I'm an avid fan of Marie Kondo. One of the things that she keeps on saying is that our clutter is most of the things that we own. Those objects are for us of the past, and we need to only own the things for the present, for us in the present. And so if we get something and we know that that object doesn't fit us anymore, we should throw it or give it away. And so that's what the character did. She went through all the objects, and if it doesn't fit her life anymore now, she would throw it away. Then she watched an episode, actually it was her brother who said that, I couldn't throw away anything that I own because everything brought me joy. And then she watched another episode in the movie that was shown in the movie, where one of the people that Marie Kondo was actually helping declutter, and that character and that person said that it was very hard for her to let go of things because it brought her joy, it brought her a lot of joy, and it sort of made her pause and say, I think I threw away too much too soon. And so she decided to unpack some things, and she found some things that actually didn't belong to her. She decided she was going to return them to the people that actually own those things. And some of it were thankful. Some of them were actually thankful that she decided to return them, but some of them weren't thankful. They weren't thankful that they were there, and because they did not separate in good terms. And one of those people, she decided, okay, I'm just gonna woman up and ask for an apology. And that was when that person said it, like, why are you even here? When you were apologizing, it didn't feel like you wanted my forgiveness. It felt like you wanted to be relieved of the guilt of what you have done to me, and then just move on. You didn't even consider how I felt. Like, in your apology, did you even consider Did you even pause and ask yourself, was I ready for your forgiveness? How did I feel? You didn't even ask me how I felt, how what you have done affected me, and that would I even want you here now? So he said that you asked for forgiveness because you wanted to stop feeling guilty for what you have done, not because you want me to forgive you, or more importantly, not because you were thinking of how I felt. It was more for you. So I just had to ask myself, like, whenever we do something wrong and whenever we ask for forgiveness, is it really because we want to be forgiven by that person, or just because we wanted to be able to tell ourselves, I've already asked for forgiveness, I'm relieved of the guilt? Second is that, in relation to what that character said, once we ask, let's just say we sincerely ask for forgiveness already, do we need to be forgiven? We're already sorry and we already apologized, but do we need that person's forgiveness? Or is it really more the person's burden now, whether or not they can forgive? Let's just say us, like if somebody asks for forgiveness from us, after it, assuming that they are sincere about their apologies, do they even need our forgiveness, or does it become our burden now because the apology was sincere? Is it now on us? If we don't forgive them, it's now on us. If you get what I mean. And then there was this thing about her looking back at her memories. She was recalling what happened with some of her friends, and it was oddly different. How she recalled the events were so different from how the other people recalled the memory. And a friend of her told her, I'm trying not to give away too much, but one of the characters told her that it's just how we do it, because it's our survival instinct. We need to survive, we need to move on, we need to be able to live with ourselves. And so we redesign all of these things in a way that will make us feel good enough about ourselves to move on. So when we go through a painful memory, do we get to a point where we really can recall that painful memory to the letter and learn to live with it? Or do we program our brains to find ways on how to reinterpret that memory so that we can live with ourselves? There are two things also that I think are worth mentioning about the movie. One is that how she was totally deglamorized in the movie. There were very little makeup. It was so natural that she's a very pretty, I think she's a very, very beautiful and pretty woman. And she has the height, oh my God. It must be cold out there, up there. But yeah, she's very pretty for me. But she was so deglamorous. There was so little makeup done on her that it allowed me to see her face in its rawest form. There were no pretensions. Whenever she wants to project, whenever she's in pain, I actually saw the depths of her pain, because there were no filter when I look at her face. When I look at her eyes, when she looks at me back, when she looks at me, when she looks at the camera, when she's looking at me back, there were no filter. It was just her eyes, and it was just her rawest emotion in its rawest form. And it was the first time I've ever felt that. Yeah. Second is just the contrast in the movie were so stark, pulling from clean to clutter, clutter to clean, and how the emotions attached to it were reversed in the end. So in the beginning, they set it up so that clutter is dirty, is so disorganized, and at the end of the movie, and then minimalism and decluttering is related to clarity and friendliness, you know, and and order and peace. But at the end of it, uh, cleanliness and simplicity and minimalism became equated to emptiness and pretensions, and then clutter became warmth and love and the people that are attached to each of the object that's surrounding us. So I just thought that was just was a beautiful poetic visual irony that I needed to mention. So yeah, in the end, it's not. I wouldn't classify it as one of the greatest Thai movies of all time, but it is worth watching. It's very very understated. You need to really go very very deep inside of you to sort of recognize the value of everything that it says. So, but check it out. Happy Old Days. It's on Netflix.